Hey there, welcome to another edition of TokStocks. I'm your host, Keir Reynolds. And today we're lucky enough to have Dan Barnholden, CEO with Luca Mining with us today. Luca trades on the TSX Venture Exchange with the ticker LUCA. Hey Dan, how you doing?
I'm good, Keir. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, excited to catch up with you. Obviously, I know you as being investment banker extraordinaire, so really excited to hear what sort of convinced you to move on onto, I guess we call it the dark side, onto the issuer side, and must be a great opportunity.
Yeah, tough to know which side is the dark side and which side is the light side. I've seen lots of things on either side, but
Yeah.
look, as you know, I spent the 20 years prior to joining Luke, I spent as an investment banker, mainly focused, almost exclusively focused, actually on the mining sector. And I financed and I advised hundreds of companies in the mining sector, emerging companies, exploration companies, growth companies, et cetera, et cetera. And really what compelled me to join and take this opportunity on is I saw a huge opportunity. I've invested $1 million of my own money into this, and I think that that's massively undervalued. And I think that where we are as a company is kind of right on the precipice of a major inflection point, where we're going to start, an unusual for a small mining company. We're going to actually start making money and putting it and building a cash balance.
Hey, excellent. Well, thanks for a bit of the background there. I didn't know you'd invested quite that amount of money. Great to hear. Great to hear those sorts of things. A lot of times, that's a big difference maker, is having motivated and aligned management with shareholders, and vice
Yeah, and
versa.
to be clear, I've invested it all kind of in and around here. It's not like I got a bunch of 5-cent paper that I'm trying to flog to the market. I was one of the largest investors in the financing we did in September. I bought 1 million units at 45 cents. In fact, I was in the market again this morning. I've been buying $10,000 a day worth of stock. I intend to continue to do that over the course of the next few weeks too.
Excellent. And what are you enjoying most about the new role, coming from banking into CEO of a publicly traded mining company? What are you enjoying most about it?
It's a big change, man. It's a focus, a laser focus on one deal, right? When you're an investment banker, you're focused on 10 different relationships and 10 different deals that are in different phases of coming to fruition. Some are in the early days, some are in the middle, some are kind of moving towards a close. This is, you're focused only on one thing. And really the operating side of the business, I'd run investment banking businesses before, but the operating side of the business, there's 500 people that work for this company. And the most important thing for us is to make sure that each one of those people goes to work and comes home safely every day. We were thrilled to announce a couple of weeks ago that we'd enjoyed 365 days, 1 year of operations without an LTI at Campo Morado, which was a very major accomplishment for this company, particularly an underground Mexican mining company. Being able to get through a year without an LTI is a major accomplishment. So it's really digging into the operations, peeling back the onions. And I always tell people here that if I ever had to go back to investment banking, I would be infinitely better at the job because I would know all those extra questions to ask.
There you go. Well, before we get too far in, and why don't we get our 60-second stock pitch out of the way? So first question, easy one. What's the name and stock ticker of your company?
So the ticker is LUCA. We trade on the venture. We're fairly liquid. We also trade in the US on the OTC as LUCMF, and of course on the Frankfurt as Z68.
Excellent. And what is your market cap presently? Approximate market cap?
So we've got about 200 million shares out, and we're trading kind of in and around the 55 cent mark. So $105 to $110 million Canadian.
And what's the vision for Luca?
Well, we've got two operating mines, and one is an older mine. It's a turnaround story, and so there. I always tell people we've got three words on the front page of our presentation, and those are optimization, exploration, and expansion. And so, really, right now we're in the optimization phase, and so we've got two mines. One is an older mine that we are rehabilitating and ramping back up to cash flow. That's Campo Morado. And Campo Morado was sold for $410 million in 2010. So all that infrastructure is there. All of that investment, all of that underground workings are still there. I think that would cost close to $500 million to replace in today's dollars. At Tahuahueto, which is our brand new gold mine in northwest Durango State, that's in ramp-up phase, and we are slowly but surely getting to full production. That'll do 1,000 tons per day through the mill, and at that rate, we'll do 30,000 ounces. So between the two mines, the hope and the expectation for us is that we are going to be in a position to produce 100,000 ounces gold equivalent in 2025, which for a company with $100 million Canadian market cap, I guarantee you there's no cheaper production on the TSX to be found.
And what is the insider ownership percentage, roughly?
So in addition to my personal investment, one of our largest backers is a fellow by the name of Javier Reyes. He owns about 25% of the company. And so between himself, some of his associates, myself, some of my associates, close to 40% insider ownership.
Are you fully funded for the next 12 months?
So we raised $11.5 million in September. We still have the majority of that money in the bank. That money was raised to execute some of those high impact final capital opportunities. But really, Keir, I think that between the money that we have and the warrants that we have outstanding, I don't expect that we'll have to come back to the market, but possibly ever again.
Hey, I would love hearing that.
The investment bankers hate it. The bankers and the brokers hate it because the only place that they can buy the stock now is on the market, and there's no more warrants going to be going out anymore.
There we go. Well, we'll put a little asterisk there. There might still be a chance, but maybe not. So that's good.
Well, I would rather have people buying in the market.
For sure. Absolutely. That's what we're doing here today. What are the short-term catalysts that a couple short-term catalysts we should be watching out for?
So on October 1st, I put out a press release that sort of laid out the plan for Q4 and into Q1, and there's 6 real catalysts that we have that we really focus on, and they're sort of the pillars of value creation going into Q1 and 2025 and beyond. And those are so we hired a mining contractor in July at Campo Morado, and the mandate of that mining contractor is to be able to fill the mill. At Campo Morado, there's a 2,400 ton per day mill. First half of this year, we were struggling to get 1,400 to 1,600 tons per day to that mill. That mining contractor's mandate is to get to 2,000 tons per day by the end of the year, and then consistently ramp up to 2,400 tons per day. So Catalyst 1, fill the mill. Catalyst 2, we're working with the international mining consulting firm Ausenco, well known. They do everything from EPCM to technical reports. They're working with us to improve and optimize the mill. As you know, the mining equation of how you make money is tons times grade times recoveries. So we're working on the tons with the mining contractor. We're working on recoveries with Ausenco. And the big catalyst is going to be moving from 2 concentrates to 3 concentrates. We're going to be producing a zinc con, a copper con, and a bulk con or a lead con, which is going to carry the precious metals. So that's going to improve our payabilities and our recoveries. So again, improve tons moved, improve recoveries. And then we've got an exploration program. We just hired, I'm very proud of the exploration team that we just hired. Paul Gray from Victoria Gold, Jillian Carville, who discovered Ana Paula, originally with New Strike. Now that asset sits with Heliostar, which I'm sure you're a story you're familiar with. So again, focus on all three facets of that mining equation: improve our grade, improve our recoveries, and improve our tonnage. That's all at Campo Morado. On the Tahuahueto side, we're going to be ramping up, continuing to ramp up. I expect sometime in January, we're going to declare commercial production, which means that we will be fully commissioned, ongoing, looking at average 1,000 tons per day through that mill. At that rate, we'll do 30,000 ounces gold equivalent in 2025. And then, of course, exploration. We kicked off exploration at Tahuahueto about 3 weeks ago. We've got 3 holes in the can. The visuals look fantastic, and we'll be announcing the first assays since 2013 at Tahuahueto sometime in early 2025. So those 5 items, plus paying down debt on the corporate side, we announced that we'd undertaken debt repayments. All of our debt is to Trafigura. We are going to work that down over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. According to the debt schedule, we'll be debt-free by July of 2026. But again, if we're able to generate the cash flow that we expect, goal number 1 for this company is to get to be debt-free.
Excellent. Well, thank you for giving us a really great overview on the company there. Maybe for those of my viewers who aren't as familiar with Luca as I am, maybe just again you could sort of go over the 2 sort of operations that you've got, and then maybe you could talk about some of the infrastructure that you own, as part of those operations.
Yeah, sure. And great question, and sort of a bit of a softball for me, because one of the things that we're very proud of is, particularly at Campo Morado, is the infrastructure. And I think it's helpful to give you a little bit of the history of Campo Morado, because that explains how we have such fabulous infrastructure there. So Campo Morado is in the Guerrero Gold Belt, right beside, as I mentioned, right beside Ana Paula, which is my friend Charles's primary asset at Helios Star. So we are right in the middle of the Guerrero Gold Belt. These assets were discovered in the late 90s, actually by the Mexican Geological Society. These assets were acquired then by Farallon. And a lot of your viewers will remember Farallon. It was a wild success in the mid-2000s, ultimately sold for $410 million in 2011 to a group called Nearstar. So $411 million cash for these assets. Big part of the reason why this infrastructure is there is this was a fabulously high-grade zinc, copper, gold, lead, silver mine, a VMS-style deposit, so polymetallic. And the quality of the asset really was able to carry a fabulous infrastructure spend. So there is excellent, reliable grid power, as every bit as impressive as you would see to a BC mine. So grid power, a great road infrastructure into the site. And then we've got this 2,400 ton per day mill that was built in the mid 2000s. So it's about 20 years old. But the bones of this mill are phenomenal. Every time I bring a new person to site, they are blown away by the quality of the mill. So, almost immediately after Nearstar bought this project, they ran into some trouble. They ran into some trouble with the local communities. It was blockaded. The Belgian group Nearstar weren't really prepared the way, say, we Canadians are to work with the communities down in Mexico. And then, of course, the zinc price went against them, and then ultimately COVID. And so that was how we came into this asset. And ultimately, we acquired it basically for debt and for agreeing with Trafigura to continue to operate it, because the zinc concentrate that we produce is some of the best concentrate that Trafigura has. And so really that infrastructure, particularly at Campo Morado, that gives you a history of why it's there. In order to build that all today, including the underground workings, I believe that it costs close to $500 million US. So, for $100 million Canadian, you get all of this infrastructure, you get all of this work that was done geologically, and really a lot of it, Nearstar, after they bought it in 2011, they never really invested in exploration. And so now that I've got this fabulous exploration team, they're going to have a field day on going out and exploring the potential of Campo Morado. And I couldn't be more excited about that.
Yeah, I actually used to work for New Strike and spent some time with Jillian, and Jillian was doing the exploration at Ana Paula, and when we had it back in 2010, 2011 sort of time frame, and she's phenomenal. So great get there. And of course,
Yeah,
back in your
and Keir,
business,
I'm glad you brought that up because I did know that. But the other
yeah,
piece, of course, is that when I was an investment
yeah,
banker, I raised $35 million for New Strike to fund that discovery. And so it's such a small world in this mining sector, but also it just shows the value of maintaining good relationships. So part of the reason why Jill is working with us is because of that personal relationship that we built 15 years ago around the time of
right.
that discovery of New Strike. So, connection with you, connection with me, connection with Jill, connection with our mutual friend Charles. Really, it's one of these classic Vancouver or Canadian mining stories where everybody's kind of 1 degree of separation.
Yeah, fantastic. And yes, and thanks for raising all that money 15 years ago. And yes, I remember going on the road show there with one of your associates in New York. You set up some fabulous meetings. But anyways, that's one of the reasons I was excited to kind of connect when I saw you join this and saw the mention of Jillian and you're putting the band back together again. You've had a lot of success sort of in the region. So why don't we get back in terms of the two operations? You've got two mines. You've got one that's commercially operating, and then you've got one that's just in the sort of late stage and will be sort of commercial sometime next year. Do you own these two projects now, sort of 100%, subject to a small amount of debt? Maybe you could sort of go over this ownership structure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, short answer, yes. We own them both 100%. We do have a debt facility at each project to Trafigura. And part of the reason why that debt is in place is because Trafigura, they financed this, but also the transaction for this company to get Campo Morado was financed by debt to Trafigura. And the big piece about our relationship with Trafigura is obviously they have our offtake. These offtake agreements can be pretty punitive, which is why I'm so keen to get out of debt to Trafigura, which will put us in a position to maybe look at some expansion scenarios where we may be able to improve our economics on the project. But short answer to your question, yes, we own them. We've got about $11.5 million of term debt in place. Again, the plan is to be debt-free as quickly as possible. And so between the warrant exercise that I'm expecting in April and June of 2025, as well as the cash flow that we expect to generate, really job number one is to get debt-free. Gives us so much flexibility, so much opportunity to invest in the projects, expansion, exploration, et cetera, et cetera. And then ultimately, I mean, the name of the game is to try and return capital to shareholders, right?
There
Again,
you go.
unique for a mining company CEO
Yeah.
to be thinking about how in 12 to 18 months we might start to buy back stock or pay a dividend, or I have wild aspirations of being able to return capital to shareholders, including myself as a big shareholder.
There you go. That's probably one of the reasons why you're looking to do it, is you've got true alignment there. So in terms of, what sort of production profile, you've talked about 100,000 equivalent for sort of like next year. What do you think 2024, what's your sort of run rate kind of looking like so far? What sort of
So this
ounces
year, the
equivalent?
expectation is that we're going to be in and around 60,000 ounces gold equivalent. About a third of that is going to come from Tahuahueto, and about 2/3 is going to come from Campo Morado. As I explained to you, 2024, and particularly the back half of 2024, was really transitional. And we talked a lot about transition in our Q3 financial reports. And what I mean by that is, as an example, at Campo Morado, we went to a mining contractor. And so over the course of Q3, we transitioned from owner-operator to mining contractor. That process took several weeks and even a couple of months, in fact, to get that contractor fully mobilized at Campo Morado. So, as we move into Q1 of 2025, we'll be pretty darn close to full production at Campo Morado. Same story at Tahuahueto. Really, the capital that we were able to raise in September, that really financed completion of construction and ramp up at Tahuahueto. So, you talked about that 100,000 ounces gold equivalent number, and really that's our goal for 2025. And that's going to be made up of about 70,000 ounces gold equivalent at Campo Morado. This year, we're going to be kind of in the 40 to 50,000 range. So as we ramp up between improvements in throughput and improvements in recoveries, we hope to get to 70,000 ounces gold equivalent at Campo Morado. Tahuahueto, it's much more of a straight line. If we can do that, we think of it as 25,000 tons a month, which is about 820 tons per day, or 1,000 tons per day with 1 day a week of scheduled maintenance. That'll be 30,000 ounces gold equivalent for Tahuahueto. So it's 70, 30, Campo, Tahuahueto, 100,000 ounces. And the goal is to do $40 to $60 million in operating cash flow between those two assets. About 20 to 30 coming from Campo Morado and 20 to 30 coming from Tahuahueto. And why it's so much greater at Tahuahueto is remember, it's a brand new mine and we're right in the best part of it right now.
Excellent. So why don't we turn a bit of focus to talking about the individual operations a little bit more. So Campo Dorado, or
Morado.
Is it Morado?
Campo Morado. Purple. Morado is purple in Spanish.
There you go. It's sort of a VMS, copper, gold, silver, zinc, polymetallic situation.
Correct.
What sort of reserves or resources does the mine have?
So right now we think that it's got a mine life of about 5 to 7 years. And one of the things about coming into this company in such an undercapitalized scenario is that we're a bit out of date on our technical reports. So one of the projects that we have for this year, particularly with hiring those new individuals into the company, is to update those technical reports so that we can really point to a definitive mine life, definitive reserves and resources, and so forth. So, while we do have resource estimates, they're a little bit out of date. And so, the best estimate that we have now, Keir, is 5 to 7 years. But really, when I hired this new exploration team, the mandate for the exploration team, double reserves, double grade. And so, a tall task, but really I want to demonstrate 10 years of mine life at substantially higher grades. And I think that that's possible at both assets.
I was going to ask, that dovetails right into the next question, which was going to be, is there further exploration upside at Campo? Sounds like there might be. You got to go out and do it. But do you have some targets and things in mind?
Absolutely. Remember, I think I mentioned to you that neither one of these assets has had any substantial investment in exploration in well over a decade. So we are drilling at Tahuahueto now. We've completed 3 holes. Campo Morado, we're in the process of mobilizing drilling to Campo Morado. And Kira, I mean, you've been around this business for a while. You will remember Farallon back in the day.
Yeah.
And for those interested viewers and listeners that have an interest, you go back and you look at some of the exploration results from 2008, 2009, 2010 at Campo Morado. I mean, they were off the charts. I can barely remember any company with better drill results than some of those Farallon. And everybody made money on Farallon. The exploration potential at Campo Morado is extraordinary. And I mean, these VMS deposits, you'd be familiar with some VMS situations. Obviously, the whole Flin Flon belt in northern Manitoba, that was 100 years and still is to a certain extent, ongoing production. You get zinc, you get gold, you get silver, you get lead, you get copper. Obviously, Foran, another VMS style project that's being brought into production. So the exploration potential here is really extraordinary. And again, after Nearstar bought it in 2011, for a whole bunch of different reasons. They really haven't done much in the way of exploration. And so, between Jillian, who we talked about, between Paul Gray, who's come in, and also importantly, I think you should recognize on our board, we've got Neil O'Brien, who was Lucas Lundine's right-hand man through the whole building phase of Lundin Mining. And of course, the cornerstone asset of Lundin Mining was Neves-Corvo. And Neves-Corvo, again, a VMS-style deposit, really zinc primary. And so the potential at Campo Morado is something that I couldn't be more excited about going out and having the team investigate.
Excellent. And why don't we turn our attention to Tahuahueto? So that's also a polymetallic situation, also an underground mine. Can you give us a bit of an overview sort of on that project as well?
Yeah, so it's a bit different. It's an epithermal style deposit. It is polymetallic, but it's primary gold. About 80% of the value comes from gold production. And again, it's a bit of a different situation here because it's a smaller mine. It was built for 1,000 tons per day. And if you think about what if you want to build a big mine, you got to have big throughput, even if we can push the grade a bit. So if I was the CEO of this company 5 or 6 years ago, I would have thought more about a bigger exploration plan to demonstrate what I believe to be a multi-million ounce gold potential deposit there. And that if you can find a good grade multi-million ounce deposit, that can be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So the prior management team ultimately made a decision to bootstrap this project, bring it into production. And so I'm thrilled to have what I think about now as a self-funding exploration project. This is going to generate $20 to $30 million in operating cash flow. And we're going to invest a lot of that money into exploration. Right now, the exploration or the resource that we have is calculated on 4 known veins. But in fact, there's 14 known veins and splays. And so there's an opportunity for us to get out and get aggressive with exploration at Tahuahueto. Tahuahueto is 150 kilometers to the northwest of San Dimas. San Dimas has produced well in excess of 30 million ounces gold equivalent over the course of the last 50, 60, 70 years. So am I saying that this is, has the potential to host 30 million ounces? Well, I guess anything has that potential, but I think that the potential here is definitely to host a multi-million ounce deposit. You also might be familiar with a company called Mithril, a new joiner, an Australian group coming over to list on the TSX. One of the best performing stocks of the year, really based on a discovery that they made. And where was that discovery? It was about 20 kilometers from where we sit. Same set of rocks, same host. And so that's what's got me so excited about exploration here at both of our assets.
Excellent. And so let's turn our attention to the financial sort of health. So you mentioned that there was a bit of a softer sort of quarter. There was a bunch of information sort of in your financials and MD&A, sort of the transition stuff. What should people sort of expect kind of going forward? Do you believe that the quarters will be getting sort of stronger? Are there further sort of headwinds that we should be prepped for? Maybe you could just comment on that.
Yeah, look, I think that I think that the work that we did in Q3, and as you said, a weaker quarter. We had some technical issues. We had some issues with some of the equipment at Tahuahueto. And so it really was, I think, a bit of a low point for the company. Q4, the work that we did in Q3 really laid a foundation for us to emerge into Q4 and into Q1 of 2025 much, much stronger as a company. Particularly, remember, we also raised money in Q3. So the money that we raised in Q3, the work that we did in Q3, the upgrades, the completion of some of the important projects at both sites, the hiring of a mining contractor at Campo Morado. All of those things happened in Q3, right? So as you think about, okay, improvements at the plant, mining contractor, replacement of a whole bunch of old parts at Tahuahueto, some of the stuff that had been bought used, we were able to replace. And so all of that was done in Q3. So as we emerge into Q4, Q4 is going to be, I hope and expect, the best quarter of the year. And it's really going to set the table for what I expect is going to be the best year this company has ever experienced in 2025. Look, I did a lot of due diligence before I took this job. I talked to some smart technical people, and I tried to understand, are these assets flawed, or do they just need a little bit of money and a little bit of time? And all of the smart technical people that I spoke to said, look, this is a real turnaround story. And that turnaround is happening day by day. Every day that I wake up, this company is a little bit better than it was the day before.
Hey, good to hear. What's your sort of all-in sustaining cost on an ounce equivalent? Do you have that?
Yeah. So for the first 9 months of the year, it was about $18.40, which is to the high end, but not sort of out of the realm of reasonable. I mean, for context, Nevada Gold Mines produces their gold at about $1,800. So, lots of room for good positive margin, particularly with the gold price bumping back up against $2,700. The AISC in that kind of $1,800 range. We expect it to stay there. Obviously, we're optimizing the projects. But we're also, like everybody, we're experiencing inflation, increasing costs in all aspects, and definitely want to avoid any labor strife. So we continue to improve the benefits and improve the pay of our great employees. And yeah, so long answer to the question. The short answer is around 1850.
Do you have any royalty or streaming contracts on any of the projects?
Yeah, so there's a 3% royalty at Campo Morado, and that goes to the Mexican government. Again, I think that we talked about how they were the ones that originally discovered it. And then we've got a streaming agreement on the silver, up to 1 million ounces of silver, with a group called Empress Royalties, and you probably know Empress.
Yeah,
Empress is a good friend and partner of ours, and they get 80% of they get 100% of our copper, and they pay us 20% of the spot price for it, and that's up to 1 million ounces. And so we're digging quickly to get out from under that, and that's part of the other piece. Once all of the financing costs for these assets are dealt with, it'll be a much different company, and the cash flow generation will be extraordinary.
Sure. So is this a story of growth, or is it a story of prioritizing profitability? What's your sort of thoughts in terms of how you sort of look to position Luca?
Well, the good news is that we can be both. It's I think about this, Keir, that there's 4 chances to win with this company, right? There's 4 chances to make money, and that is the consistent ongoing improvement of production and cash flow generation at Campo Morado. And then there's the wild exploration potential at Campo Morado. Like, so again, I'd encourage you to go and look at what Campo Morado was doing in the 2000s. Okay, so that could be game changing if we put some good pokes into these ore bodies and we announce those to this market. I mean, I think you're going to see incremental improvements in the share price as we incrementally improve operations at Campo Morado, and then you've got that potential for explosive share price growth on the back of exploration success. Same exact deal at Tahuahueto. You're going to have that incremental improvement in production and incremental improvement in cash flow on a day-by-day, week-by-week basis. And then you're going to have that exploration potential that could lead to explosive growth if we tag into something like what they have at Mithril, or if we're able to demonstrate high grade over long meterages at Tahuahueto. So again, 4 chances to win. Improvements at each asset, exploration success at each asset, times 2.
Great. Any strategics or institutional sort of investors that you're able to talk about?
So that's really part of my mandate. I mean, obviously, as a former investment banker, part of what I did, we brought in about 4 of the $11.5 million came from institutional investors. We've got a handful of funds out of Toronto, some U.S. funds that have been very supportive, some European family offices, again, that have been very supportive. But really, honestly, we've struggled. And I think that that's partly this company, but it's also partly a state of the market that institutional investors aren't that interested in getting involved with $100 million market cap companies. They also don't seem to have that much spare capital kicking around for new names. So short answer is we're 5 to 10% institutional. A lot of this deal is supported by retail friends and supporters of mine personally that I brought in that $11.5 million financing. We have no research, which is something that I am on the investment bankers that led our deal. I'm on those guys daily. Hey, where's my research? And then, we're just out doing things like this, trying to find new big retail investors, and then trying to crack that institutional market.
Well, I thought I was going to see at the Zurich, the SMI, the Swiss Mining Institute conference in November. You would have been perfect for that.
I did host a dinner 3 weeks ago at Zurich as an adjunct to the Precious Metals Summit.
Right.
Keir, I've been marketing my ass off since I started.
You can only do so many, right?
5 months in, we've been invited to some of the major bank conferences held in Florida in February, and then the other big bank one that's held down south in I believe they've moved it to Las Vegas, but previously in Palm Springs. So we're on the radar. We're on institutional radar. We're getting invited to the conferences. We're getting in to do institutional marketing. And I think a lot of guys are sort of taking a bit of a wait and see approach, waiting for that Q4 to hit. And so from my perspective, I think that the opportunity to get into this stock is kind of between now and the end of February when we start to put our results out. But there's a lot of catalysts between now and February. Again, drill results coming. Some key new hires going to be made, and then that announcement of commercial production at Tahuahueto. I think that those are all going to be game changing. And then again, that potential for explosive upside growth comes always in the background from drill results.
Hey, maybe just turning gears for a second. As soon as you came from banking, you've been in the CEO seat now for 5-6 months. Like you were saying, what about sort of the marketing side, the IR, investor relations side of things? Maybe can you share a little bit about what that sort of looks like for you guys? Things that have been working, anything that has sort of surprised you getting into the role?
Well, it's funny. You raise some money and you would have no idea how many phone calls you get from people that are, hey, I've got a great network in Europe, or I've got this awesome network through the US, or I want to host lunches or dinners or meals, and
you want to spend your money.
Exactly. And so, look, I've got a great deal of respect for my shareholders, and I want to make sure that they are supported. And so I am investing in marketing. I'm investing time. I'm investing money. I would point out that this is not a paid promotion here that I'm doing with you, but
No,
personal relationship, and I greatly appreciate it. But yeah, look, I do want to support my shareholders. And so what that means to me is to make sure that I'm out telling the story, trying to generate buy tickets every day. I'll do any interview, anybody that says that they've got a good following. I'm on it, and and I love telling this story because I think it's a great story. I like to tell people about why I joined this company because, I there's no better feeling than somebody coming up to you and say, "Hey, I invested in your company and I made a lot of money." Right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Well, that's absolutely it. And, this kind of reminds me a little bit of like, New Strike back from a different generation, from the previous cycle, except you're in production, you're cash flowing. So, I think the last financing you arranged for that company was $3.26 a share at like 330 million market cap.
yeah.
No asset, outside of like the exploration project. But you've got some, pretty interesting exploration upside, and you've got two projects which are, cash, starting to cash flow and some, and significantly. So looks like tremendous value for your market cap in this sort of cycle, and I can see why you jumped at the chance to head it up. So, hey Dan, I really appreciate the time. Do you have any closing thoughts you want to leave us with, or have we kind of covered it?
No, I think we hit on all the high points. Great set of questions here. Yeah, I guess I would just leave listeners with the commentary that this is a company that is kind of at that critical inflection point, and it's really exciting day by day to come in and see these assets. The diligence that I did 6 months ago that sort of suggested these things were going to happen have happened and are happening as we speak. And I think that as the market gains conviction that the turnaround is upon us, no telling where this stock could go.
Hey, well, excellent. I really appreciate catching up. I'd love to catch up with you in another sort of quarter once
Yeah.
you've got a few of these catalysts sort of out of the way, and fabulous interview. Thanks for answering the questions, and have a wonderful day.
Yeah, really appreciate the time. Thanks, Keir. Good to see you.